Look, there are some big political issues on right at the moment, and I feel for dairy farmers right now with the Fonterra thing. This, I believe, will be as big an issue. It's just that a lot of the public haven't woken up, because it appears to me as though the Ministry of Fishery are trying to push through the reduction in quota while a lot of people aren't fishing. It's the middle of winter. Good winter, though, but it is the middle of it. Richard, what is being proposed?
Well, incredibly, Murray, this is it. This is what we're heading for. The leftovers in a commercially managed fishery. After 27 years of our world-leading quota management system, they're proposing bag limits of 3 fish at 27 centimetres.
So there it is there. That's what you'd have. Those fish there are 27
centimetres. One of them's actually 29.
Right.
But there's not enough to feed even a small family there.
Well, let's have a look at what you've got to the feed, because what you guys have done is also you've filleted. This is what a fisherman will bring back after a day's fishing.
Now, I'd like to think I'm pretty accurate at filleting these little minnows, but that's what you end up with, and that's not even going to feed 1 or 2 people if they're hungry.
Well, nobody's going to go out fishing for that, Paul, are they?
No, I think it's an outrage. I think it's a ministry out of control trying to drive a privatisation agenda. It's trying to lock the recreational sector into a very small portion of the fishery so that the fishing industry, their quotas will be protected, their exports will be protected.
So who has made the proposal?
This is direct from the Ministry of Primary Industries, and it's part of a long saga where they're ignoring the Fisheries Act and they're pretending that the recreational fisher are shareholders in the fishery.
Now, it is a long, long tradition in this country, and I want to show you what was said in 1989. The national policy for marine recreational fishing was finalised. Hear the word? Finalised. And the Minister of Fisheries, Colin Moyle, issued the following statement that is referred to today as Moyle's Promise. Quote, "Government's position is clear. Where a species of fish is not sufficiently abundant to support both commercial and non-commercial fishing, preference will be given to non-commercial fishing." Now, to me, Paul, that is so clear what that is saying.
That's precisely what is still in the Fisheries Act. That was the promise that they made before they snuck the quota management system in, and now they're trying to renege on it. There's a few more fish in the water now. They're trying to take them off us. They do not want the public to have these fish. The ministry wants to give them to their commercial mates.
Well, in 1996, the Act was passed. Richard, here it is here. The purpose of the Act is to provide for the utilisation of fisheries resources while ensuring sustainability. Now, utilisation means conserving, using, enhancing and developing fisheries resources to enable people to provide for their social, economic and cultural well-being. What it is saying to me is this is what it is to be a New Zealander. Does it say that to you?
Absolutely. The Fisheries Act says that the Minister shall allow for, and quite plainly, if he thinks that allows for my interest in the fishery, I think he's been poorly advised, and it's a political hot potato. We've got election year coming up and we're going to end up with a legal challenge, and it's going to affect 1 million New Zealanders. Are they going to sit back and take this?
I was with a guy today who I know is an influential person in the National Party, gives them a lot of money, said to me, "I don't believe that John Key knows about this." He said, "This is so dopey." Do you believe Key knows about it?
No, I think this whole issue is a ministry agenda. They put limited options in front of the minister, and the minister makes the decision, and he's the one that bears the brunt of it. It's a ministry out of control. They're on a privatisation agenda for the recreational fishery, and the snapper one is just the beginning, because the same allowances that have been put in the snapper one fishery apply all across the country. They're back in 1997 they done them. They didn't know how to count recreational fishers. They admit they probably got the figures wrong. The population's grown 28%. They're trying to jam us, ring fence us into our 1997 catch. Well, it's 2013. We actually need to be allowed for now, not 1997.
Yep. And although it appears as though it is a fait accompli to come down to three of those piddly fish,
No, it's not, Murray.
well, it may be because they have given proposals which solely take stuff off recreational fishermen and give it to commercial fishermen. What is Legacy, who you're part of, what are they doing, and how can people who want to do something about this, what can they do?
They can get online and submit to www.legacy.co.nz, that's legasa.co.nz, and save our snapper. The reality is we've got a fishery that the minister is supposed to allow for future generations of New Zealanders, and if we get ring-fenced into an allocation or an allowance that was made back in 1997, there's never going to be enough fish to feed New Zealanders, and as the population grows, we're going to be out of the fishery. That birthright will be gone.
When does this close, the submissions?
The 23rd of this month.
So when did they open?
About midway through last month, and I think they were released 3 weeks late in releasing the paper. Legacy has been struggling to try and get in contact with all of the recreational fishers that will be adversely affected by this. It's an appallingly short
Paul,
consultation.
really what they're doing, if you come down to the nuts and bolts with a short time frame, was to jam it through during winter when people weren't taking as much notice of fishing as they do in the middle of summer. Am I right?
That is a point, but by law, if the minister's going to change the TAC or the TACC, he has to do that on the 1st of October. So we do actually need to be consulted. But I hear that the fishing industry were consulted 2 or 3 months ago in some private meeting.
So prior...
Before the paper came out.
So they're given prior treatment even on that?
Yeah, and they said don't cut our quotas. So why weren't we included in that? Why didn't they come and put these proposals to us? Some of these proposals are insane.
Why are they treated better than recreational fishermen? Because there are more recreational fishermen to vote. So what is the power that the commercial boys have?
The Ministry of Fisheries has a paymaster that is 50% from the commercial sector. They wield far too much influence in the research. They actually will readily support research. This is the fishing industry, will only support research that shows them in a good light.
On my radio program last night, I had the minstrel ring up. And the minstrel made a point that he believes that there is political cronyism here. It's a strong claim. He said Sanfords get extra good treatment because Richard Goodfellow, who's the president of the National Party, is his family are big shareholders in Sanford. Is that the sort of wheeze that's going around fishing circles at the moment?
The forums are certainly starting to pick up on that. It's actually Peter Goodfellow, and the family's 38% shareholding in Sanfords. It's a well-known, it's a public fact.
There's a lesser-known fact. Sanfords is actually first in line for any new quota that's issued in the Snapper 1 fishery. That's the fishery we're talking about. That's because they weren't compensated in 1986. So I think it's the first 500 or 600 tonnes of quota that's issued in Snapper 1 goes straight to Sanfords.
When we look at this area, how well has it been looked after?
Well, appallingly. The bottom line is we're 27 years into the quota management system, and they're still using the same methods, the commercial sector, still using the same methods that decimated the fishery, took it down to under 10% of the fish stock, and the ministry hasn't addressed the waste in the fishery, and their IPP, the initial position paper to the minister, is silent on the value of the economic value of recreational fishing.
Now, when we talk about waste, we've got lovely pictures on at the moment of jokers fishing. I want to see the photos come up, which you sent me, Paul, which are the photographs which are showing the wastage. Now, where were these taken?
One of them's Coromandel, one of them's the West Coast. And this is the Coromandel one. Now,
so what's this the product of, mate?
11 kilometres of coastline with dead fish washed up on it. And I think it's the product of quota owners directing fishing boats to go out with insufficient quota to cover their catch. They send them out and they say, here's 5 tonne of gurnard and 5 tonne of teriki, but you're only allowed to catch 2 tonne of snapper, otherwise you pay the deemed value. That looks like it was probably a 40 or 50 tonne drag. They didn't have quota to cover it, goes over the side. If the fishermen had landed it, it would have cost them nearly $1 million. That's why fish get dumped. It's the perverse incentives in the quota management system.
I don't understand that quite. Repeat it for me.
Okay, if I own quota,
Yep.
or I'm a fishing
And you go
shed,
over it.
and you're a commercial fisherman,
Yep.
I probably own the quota that you're fishing with. So I will give you, because I want all these other fish caught, I want to conserve my snapper quota. So I'll say, okay, I want you to catch 5 tonne of teriki, 5 tonne of gurnet, but you're not going to get any quota for the 2 tonne of snapper if you catch any more than 2 tonne of snapper. That is the result of a big hit of snapper that they weren't expecting. If they'd landed it, the fisherman was in the gun for the $1 million, not the quota holder.
Oh,
the quota
mate, I've got you. I've got you now. I'm a bit slow, but I've got you now.
I think we've got another...
Richard, this is not good stuff, is it? Well, we've got more pictures of juvenile mortality too.
Well, what happens with the juvenile snapper, the fishing industry has a size limit of 25 centimetres, and it's well known that there's all of the fishery under 25 centimetres. Those fish just get shoveled back over the side of trawlers and longliners. Those fish, they're dead and they're taken out of the fishery. Now, the survival of any 1 year class of fish is solely dependent on weather, and it's a big thing to get a recruit into the fishery, a small baby fish growing. And if that fish is allowed to grow, it will grow to 25, 35, 45 centimetres. But unfortunately, we're still using those wasteful bulk harvesting methods, and there's still no proposal to address that. It's easier to take a shot at the public, who are the soft target. Well, no more.
There's a better way of explaining this. The quota management system was supposed to engender better husbandry in commercial fishers. You give them quota, they look after it. Had the quota stayed with the commercial boats, that may have happened, but it didn't. It's all owned by corporates and Queen Street investors. What's happened since is that there's been continued drive just to minimise the expense that's attached to quota and maximise the yield. There's been no time spent on trying to conserve fish stocks, reduce the mortality of juveniles, and there's millions and millions of fish have been wasted in the process. If you added up all the dumping, the high grading, the deeming, the juvenile mortality, had that been addressed when they said it was going to be addressed, when you gave these guys the quota, we'd have 2x, 3 times as much fish out there now as what we've got. But no, instead of fixing the real problems in this fishery, the ministry wants to focus on the recreational sector. It doesn't want to spoil its image about having the world's leading quota management system. They actually said in Canada, we've got the best system in the world. This is only a couple of months ago. We've got the best system in the world. There's no fish dumping in New Zealand. Well, you've seen it.
We've just seen those photos. We're just about out of time. Legacy is where people should put their proposals in, correct?
www.legacy.co.nz SOS. Save our snapper.